Greetings, ladies and gentlemen, it is I am the one and only Tiana here once again, and ladies and gentlemen, welcome back for more of the continuation of the forms of not only for the Maxi Toys videos, but also with the forms of the continuation of the Mega Man Marathon 2, and I am from the likes of the Maxi Toys, as you probably expect at this point. So ladies and gentlemen, welcome back for some more of Let's Play of Mega Man and Bass Challenger from the Future from the Bandai WonderSwan. So, last time, we've completed the whole entire first playthrough of the entire game as Mega Man by able to not only try to take down the forms of Clock Man, but also with the forms of the Compass Man, and finally we did manage able to kill, Mega Man or Rockman Shadow at the end. So as a result though, kind of an easy final boss in terms of the forms of the entire game itself. But either way though, it knows where it stands. So today, for this video, as you can probably see on screen, we're going to be playing the game again, but this time we're going to be playing as Bass this time. So because of this though, I know it's a bit redundant, despite the fact that clearly I just want to show you guys how Bass actually plays out in this game. Although, if those of you have already played Mega Man and Bass before on the Super Famicom or Super Nintendo if you're in the English countries, that basically Bass plays out exactly like the forms of how it does it on the original Mega Man and Bass game. Like for example, he can able to actually just do rapid fire, although he can't able to actually decide to actually perform charge shots or slide, but apart from those side of things though, he can able to actually do, like, for example, he can able to actually just do a bit of a dash maneuvering, and on top of all that stuff though, he can also just manage to able to aim his directions in any other directions. To be more specifically, I think he can only shoot for about 7 of those directions, at least as far as I usually recall, which that way, dealing certain enemies or certain boss fights will be a total cakewalk, at least for the most part anyway. And finally, he can able to perform a double jump, which makes platforming segments a bit easier, but either way though, it knows what it is for the most part. If you ever played Mega Man and Bass before, you know, basically Bass is it's like an easy mode, but I will have to admit it though right away, is the fact that specifically in this game, I will say he's kind of difficult in this game, to be more specifically when it comes to dealing with some harder aspects of the forms of this game, although, because like I said before, that ever since about 2 days ago at this point, that relatively speaking, that we actually did manage to go for the character selection in the opposite way, so that way we don't need to worry about the forms of, hardest difficulty to the easy difficulty side of things, but either way though, it knows what it is for the most part, so... Anyway, so not much else to talk about the forms of this, the second playthrough in terms of the forms of this game in particular. It's just the fact that we're going to be going through the exact same stages again, except you're able to take control of Bass this time as opposed to Mega Man. So, however though, here's the thing about the forms of Bass in comparison to the forms of Mega Man is the fact that as soon as we're done with the intro stage, mind you, we still need able to take down the forms of the exact same bosses again, except with the fact that, well, it's kind of annoying for between this game, along with the forms of Mega Man and Bass, that you noticed about the fact that, like I mentioned this earlier, that thankfully that Bass does have himself a rapid fire shot. However though, trying to deal with the forms of certain enemy encounters, or even boss fights every once in a while, that usually, for the most part though, it can sometimes take forever to just try to able to actually beat these guys down. To be more specifically, Great Devil in some cases though, because, well, sometimes I have to admit to that right away is that this process might be a bit slower. That's only mainly because I'm just trying to try my best to dodge those particular goopy stuff, which as a result it won't allow me to able to drain my health for almost instant, but you know, I get the idea about that. Especially noticeable whenever we get to the later Robot Masters in particular, well, to be more specifically, Aircon Man, basically does the fact that he might as well take forever to able to beat him down, even certain mini boss fights here and there, as long as you were able to actually get yourselves the correct, robot ability that you can able to actually equip with, or the actual weapon in general. But either way though, you probably know why until whenever we get to the later portion of this particular basis playthrough, so yeah, you probably get the idea about that, so yeah, for the most part though, it's just the fact that, well, it plays out exactly like in Mega Man's playthrough. Well, like I said before, that usually the only difficult aspect about the forms of Bass's playthrough than he Forms of Power does on Mega Man's playthrough, I have to say, is the amount of damage it takes for certain bosses, and that's pretty much as far as the only difficulty as far as this is concerned, I guess. So, but luckily though, just like the Forms of Power does on Mega Man and Base, that basically you do have a save feature. Like, you can either just manage able to do one playthrough as Mega Man, or you can able to do another playthrough with Base in some cases. So, yeah, that's not much right to home about, I suppose. So yeah, a few things we want to explain for this point today, and that is the fact that today's date is, of course, the 19th of August today, in this case in 2022 today, so naturally speaking, that we're pretty much almost nearly at the end in terms of August month. So because of this though, I think we are roughly about 12 days left until we moved on to the 9th month in terms of the forms of 2022 at this point. So as a result though, and also during that time, that it looks like we're almost getting there to the forms of the actual celebration of the release of the forms of Splatoon 3. So at least that should be exciting, especially noticeable about the fact that, well, I suppose that some other toys has already explained about this, specifically Ray the Flying Squirrel, from the likes of the forms of SpongeBob SquarePants Battle for Bikini Bottom Rehydrated Let's Play. Oh jeez, I'm almost gonna be dead at this rate, but hopefully I should be able to actually just get the last few shots in. Oh, come on, he's almost down. Okay, come on. Okay, there we go. Hi, jeez, Grey Devil as base can take absolute forever. But jeez Louise, certain boss fights like this will be becoming a thing for, you know, the actual boss's length. Might be felt a bit too lengthy every once in a while. But anyways, let's go and select file 2 here. So that way we can able to actually just able to get ourselves 44, you know, bolts as far as this is concerned. And as you can see on this little profile image, that it looks like Ro is going to be taking charge as opposed to Dr. Light. So yeah, that's actually interesting to say the least. So yeah, there are certain items that can only be required for base in mind, like treble. So yeah, you probably get the idea about that. So let's go for the exact same amount of those Robot Master's orders. So in this case though, Aircon Man. So I think this will be the last time we're going to be seeing those specific Robot Masters in mind, because after that though, then we're probably not going to see them ever again. Well, I'm not exactly sure if they will able to return from the likes of the forms of in one of those DLCs or something like that. Well, mind you, I haven't exactly looked upon that much of this game as that often, unlike the forms of other mainstream, you know, Mega Man games in general, as far as at that point in time. So, yeah, I guess that's something. Oh, and by the way, if you get caught by the bubble, you have to break free, which as a result though can sometimes take absolute forever to able to actually just to get it popped, but also at the same time that you probably know what to expect. So, but I digress. So, and also, I kind of think about it though, is the fact that I can't even believe that it's almost been about a month ago, since like, almost entirely a month ago, since when Xenoblade Chronicles 3 was being released. But I'm not exactly sure how do I explain this though, because I don't necessarily try to watch that particular Let's Play, I must be honest here, because it's not my type. So, but that's probably just me anyway though. So anyways, let's go and do some very careful platforming here. And of course, we still need to try to dodge a lot of spikes. And although, thankfully, if you try to pull up a double jump for certain frames, then basically though, you can able to actually instantly manage to try and able to avoid as many of those spikes as you could. So yeah, you probably get the idea about that. So, I highly doubt I probably won't be able to actually get a game over anytime soon, but if I do apologize for that. Especially noticeable because, well, relatively speaking, it's just the fact that it has been about, I would say a couple of hours for able to actually do this entire process of this editing for this video. This is clearly obvious because after the events of a total easy difficulty side of things, well, aside from the fact that for the likes of the certain death situations in Mega Man's playthrough of this entire game, which, oh no, I found it to be an alright difficulty so far, But as far as base is concerned, it might actually took a lot longer than the forms of how it does in on Mega Man's playthrough, because, like, take this mini-boss fight for example, that normally you probably know what to expect in order able to deal with damage on this particular mini-boss fight against with that particular octopus little robot. And then basically though, you have to use these guys in order able to reflect your projectile right back at the forms of the octopus guy. However though, here's the only thing about this is the fact that, like I said before, trying to deal with boss fights, or especially noticeable in enemies, especially noticeable with certain mini-boss fights, can sometimes take absolute forever in order able to deal the damage on these guys, because obviously with the actual, like, you notice about the fact that unlike Mega Man, that base cannot do the actual charged up Mega Buster, so as a result though, you have to deal with the forms of that one in particular hit projectile, especially noticeable whenever you get to Aircon Man. So yeah, you probably get the idea about the fact that how this is gonna be, like, irresistible as far as I'm usually concerned with that stuff though, but again, it has been about a couple of hours since I actually just managed able to last, you know, play this after all, about the fact that after the forms of the actual a little tad bit frustration difficulty in certain segments, well, nowhere near as often as I think it was, so, but I digress. So, another thing I want to explain about this is as well, is the fact that recently, for those of you who lived in North America, well, happy 10th anniversary of the forms of the release of the new Super Mario Bros. 2 game. Despite the fact that most people seem to don't really care about the game all that much though, because obviously that new Super Mario Bros. 2 is by far the easiest new Super Mario Bros. Games ever made, or to be more specifically, ever exist of. Oh, in addition to that though, is the fact that also during the forms of in North America as well, around the same time as when New Super Mario Bros. 2 came out, during the course of in North America, happy 10th anniversary of the release of the Nintendo 3DS XL. Gee, I can't even believe those two things are now a decade old, which I do remember back in the day actually, whenever I did somehow manage to look upon the unboxing videos between both the Nintendo 3DS XL and the new Super Mario Bros. 2 game, that's, yeah, it's kind of surreal whenever I see the actual, the Nintendo 3DS XL on screen for the sake of the forms of the captured video footage or something like that during camera, and then I was like, oh my lord, this thing is amazing. At least back in the day that was, like usually in 2012's case. Well, mind you, it's a bit outdated right now, just because most people seem to already own the new 3DS XL models now, just because it's a lot more advanced, especially noticeable with new features and all that stuff though. But for its time though, back in 2012, although mind you, I somehow accidentally get a death right there, but that's okay, because we've got the midway point after dealing with that particular mini boss fight after all, so yeah, this is what I mean when it comes to difficulty, when it comes to basis playthrough in this game this time around though, is that I just feel like that this might actually be the hard mode of the entire game, because to me, I think Mega Man's playthrough is sucked up as like pretty easy, because you might be familiar with the forms of the Mega Man's moveset and all that stuff though, which it might like, it more accurately likely designed for. Whilst in this game to me though, for base's case, I just don't think that base might able to work as well in the forms of this game, because although the only time it does manage to work for me though, when it comes to playing as base in general, is both Mega Man and Base for the Super Nintendo or Game Boy Advance for those of you who lived in the English countries, and also Mega Man 10 for the sake of the forms of DLC and stuff like that. Well, despite the fact that for Nintendo Wii owners, that you can no longer get yourselves Mega Man 9 and 10 on the Wii console sadly, but that's okay, because I've obviously already got Mega Man 9 and 10 on my Switch, so at the very least that's something I suppose, so... And of course I still need to able to try to deal with this particular inflatable enemy right there in order to able to advance and all that stuff though, which thankfully if you try to do some careful jumps and what have you, then obviously you would be able to miraculously trying to able to actually make this process a bit quicker, despite the fact that you still need to try to avoid a lot of spikes, because, well, if you get hit by certain enemy projectiles, or to be more specifically, certain enemies and stuff like that, your invincibility frames doesn't last for long, so you have to be so fast on it though. So let's just go ahead and make a leaps of faith right there until we have basically dodged every single spiked instant death spikes. And also, we are also able to... I was expecting if I was trying to get the health pickup, but I think we're going to be okay for the most part. Until, after this particular screen, then we can pretty much expect able to go back into its normal state. So, and I think this will actually be the last time we're able to do, for the sake of the forms of our Let's Play channels and stuff like that, specifically the Maxi Toys department, despite the fact that, as you can tell, I instantly managed able to jump cut from that particular process of this recording setup. That, as you can tell, that I somehow managed to able to no longer try to able to do with the forms of the vertical screen position this time. So because of that though, this will be the last and final time to able to actually see that particular vertical screen display for this entirety of the entire channel at that point in time. So yeah, because for the majority of the time, we're just gonna have to play for the game as normal by going for horizontal play. So that should be pretty expected at this point for that point right there. So actually kind of thinking about it, I think trying to deal with Aircon Man might actually be kind of easy for base, despite the fact that it might actually took absolute forever to try to deal the damage on him. So as a result though, I think he might actually be kind of easy to deal with, because thankfully, if he was onto the forms of some attack periods, to be more specifically like extending those rocks, then basically he can able to actually shoot the likes out of him. So that should be pretty swell. Unlike the forms of how it does it on Grey Devil, that he could just sometimes take absolute forever in order to able to deal with the boss. So, but yeah, you get the idea about that. So either way though, I was expecting if I was trying to do the post commentary for the sake of this part right here. But unfortunately though, there's not much else I can honestly try to talk about, because, well, I've already mentioned about the forms of base's moveset actually plays out in this game, because, like I said before, it plays out exactly like the forms of how it does in the original Mega Man and Base game. So, it looks like we've stumbled across Fortate Cyclone. So, it plays out exactly like the forms of how it does in one of those weapons you'll be using, based off of what Mega Man did manage to use. So, anyways, let's go and overwrite this save file right here. 110 bolts as far as we've got so far. So now let's move on to Dangan Man for the final time. So we can pretty much expect about the fact that we can hopefully try to able to do with these levels sometimes a bit quicker, whilst most of the time, especially noticeable trying to deal with mini boss fights, it can sometimes take forever. So however though, I will have to admit it though, is the fact that in one of those stages coming up, that, oh man, I had a lot of frustration on this run, especially noticeable that, well, you probably already know what I mean, if we able to actually get to this point. So for the most part, I just need to do some bit of careful timing jumps and what have you, so that way I will able to actually just try to able to skip certain portions of this particular level as far as this is concerned. So anyway, about what the forms of the 10th anniversary of not only for New Super Mario Bros. 2 on the 3DS completely, but also the Nintendo 3DS XL, because as a result, that some people complain about the forms of the difficulty of the game, which I think I've already mentioned about that ever since and during the course of Mega Man's playthrough of the forms of this entire game so far, that relatively speaking, a lot of people complain about the forms of the lack of originality, and also the easiest difficulty, rather than having a bit of challenge until the DLC exists. That thankfully it does have some bit of challenge to it when it comes to the forms of DLC packs, especially noticeable if it's you know what I mean, Nerf Rack pack, and especially noticeable with the forms of Impossible pack, but that doesn't until when it exists until specifically in October during the course of 2012, at least as far as I usually recall that correctly, although correct me if I'm wrong, because it has been about donkey's years since I actually known about release dates for certain New Super Mario Bros. 2 DLC packs in particular. So yeah, because of that though, I honestly have no idea what I was trying to say about this. So thankfully, trying to deal with that particular mini boss fight with trying to utilizing Forte's Cyclone weapon is actually pretty reliable. So at the very least, that's something, I suppose, especially noticeable if we stumble across, you know, extra lives or all that stuff though, then we can pretty much expect how this is going. So anyway, so let's go ahead and continue things on here. And also I do remember back in the day also about the fact I do remember that a little bit of annoyances back in the day, that I do remember about the fact that I felt incredibly bad from the likes of the forms of Rayman Legends delay. That's only mainly because I believe that game has been delayed quite a few times, not just by the forms of how the fact that it's going to be exclusive on the Wii U, but also about the fact that most consumers are a bit worried about the fact that if Rayman Legends didn't sell so well, especially noticeable after all before when the Wii U was actually a massive flop, so as a result though, that it might actually go to multi-platforms, including the most successful Nintendo Switch version until 2017 roll around. So that's a good thing that we somehow managed able to stick around with the Switch as opposed to the Wii U, because despite the fact that we did have a fun time playing the Wii U version back in the day, however though that the Switch version is now going to be able to get himself its pure domination for the actual sales numbers. Especially noticeable is about the fact that, well, no wonder why that the Switch is doing very, very successful at this rate. So, understandably so, because, you know, that particular system is like a hybrid of any sorts, so yeah, relatively speaking, that's as far as I can say about it. Jesus Christ, it still deals so much damage, especially noticeable with that, you know, that little ceiling tiles and all that stuff though, but yeah, believe me, with the forms of the amount of edited skills when it comes to the forms of this particular recording session, despite the fact that it actually took me a lot of hours in order to actually get this process going, so yeah, I know it's kind of a nuisance, especially noticeable I just could not show you guys the amount of deaths I have encountered. So as a result though, I just really need to be super patient, especially noticeable I just don't want able to waste so many extra lives, especially noticeable after the events of certain difficulty segments from the likes of the Mega Man's playthrough. But it wasn't until whenever we get to the next level after this though, I had a lot of frustration, especially noticeable where, well, it's hard to explain because I know for the fact that, like I said before, it's been about a couple of hours ago since I actually just somehow managed able to get back to this game. Mind you, because me, as well as Jewel, and especially noticeable Ray the Flying Squirrel, have been busy somehow managed able to do a lot of emphasis on sunbathing recently, so just in case we all might actually be the final point when it comes to likely having a nice sunny relaxation before we move on to somewhat of a gloomy weather than others. To be more specifically, if we hit on to the autumn weather and stuff like that, and during at some point in 12 days time, then, well, it might still technically count as in like summer season when it comes to the beginning portion of September or something. So, yeah, you probably get the idea about that, and I take another death because obviously I just can't deal with this particular robot master with a little amount of health. So, at the very least, we don't usually waste our weapon energy or anything else to be more specific, so hopefully we can able to take this guy down within like a couple of hits with that particular, you know, the cyclone weapon and stuff like that. Seriously, this weapon is quite ridiculously cool, especially noticeable you can deal so much damage on these bosses, as you can clearly tell. But even then, you probably already know about that, especially noticeable if you've seen the Mega Man's playthrough of, well, this game in particular, as I was doing, so anyway, Forte Volcan. So in this case though, that I'm sure that this weapon might be a bit different. Well, mind you, it has been about a couple of hours since I actually, you know, last played this, because I was being busy lately, so, well, nothing matters anyway, though, because at this point in time, I'm still pretty excited until next month, for the likes of Splatoon 3 will be finally coming out on the Switch, so, and also at the same time, though, I'm being busy playing, Sonic Origins still, for the sake of the forms of, well, not so much in the forms of the PS4 version, or actually kind of think about it, to be more specifically the PS4 version most likely, because, well, between both the PS4 and the Xbox One version, that those are the only versions I played those on my own time. I'm not exactly sure if I was going to able to try to do the actual Let's Play of Sonic Origins as the actual compilation game for the Switch version, because I know for the fact that they basically contains exactly the same games as we've already done in the past such as Sonic the Hedgehog 1, Sonic the Hedgehog 2, Sonic the Hedgehog CD, Sonic the Hedgehog 3 and Knuckles, and some other side contents like mission mode and stuff like that. But let me know in the comments below of if I was gonna able to decide to do Sonic Origins in the future or something like that, along with Sonic Frontiers, because we will definitely surely that we can definitely get able to dive right into Sonic Frontiers Let's Play during at some point until 2023 as well. Well, mind you, about the fact that the only questionable thing about this is, though, is the fact that depending on what version we're going to be playing, because as far as I'm aware, I'll play the Xbox One version on my own time, as well as the Switch version also during on my own time, if I go out in some places. Well, mind you, we still need to be very careful out there because of the forms of that stupid C word. I'm probably going to be so sick of trying to able to mention about that at this point in time because, well, most people agree with me that it's actually getting a lot more annoying and repetitive at the same time for able to mention something related to that stupid virus. So, but I digress. So anyways, let's go ahead and deal with these little jerk-off enemies right here, so that way we can able to finish them off like so. So yeah, as far as I'm aware, when it comes to the forms of the PS4 version of Sonic Frontiers, that'll be the version we're going to be expecting to do for the Let's Play department and during at some point in 2023. So, geez, that particular hand mini fight right there with that particular weapon I somehow used, gee, it did somehow manage to deal with a lot of damage right here. Especially noticeable about the fact that, well, I think this is the part I was actually stuck on whenever I did manage to did my practice run. Because for love of God, well, assuming if I had like more health or less health depending on the forms of certain of my performance or something like that, jeez, those scissors right there, not only does it give me a knockback, but also deals so much damage on me. So because of this though, gee, no wonder why I was always having struggle with that segment whenever I did manage to did my practice run. So, I mean, usually for the Mega Man's run, it's actually not too bad. However, for base though, it just feels kind of frustration to me though, because most of the time I always miss certain shots, especially noticeable I just miss several jumps, and overall this particular segment is a nightmare as base, at least in my opinion. And it's bad enough that if you ever die against with this particular fire-like enemy right there, basically you get pushed back and then you have to go all the way back to where the checkpoint is. So, yeah, because as a result of that kind of stuff though, that, like I said before, that if you somehow manage to waste some of your weapon energy and stuff like that, and if you die, and if you somehow respawn where the checkpoint is, then obviously the weapons is still depleted. So because of this though, yeah, if you couldn't get this right for the first time, then you're pretty much gonna get guaranteed you get screwed. So, but as far as saying goes, that's pretty much as far as I can usually delve it for the sake of convenience, that is, I suppose. But it's hard to explain, honestly, because, again, it's been a couple of hours since I actually somehow managed to get into this game, so... Anyways, let's go ahead and deal with this little jerk-off thing right here, so we can pretty much expect how the fact that we can able to just move along. After trying to able to dodge every single, like, portions of that room, and somehow we've made it to the very end of, what else? In that particular stage itself. So let's go ahead and deal with this particular boss fight right here, which I know we've already fought against him from before, but I'm gonna take another death because obviously that I just couldn't do it without, well, with lesser amounts of health. That's all there is to know it, so... Anyways, let's go ahead and equip this particular weapon, so just in case we can able to do an extra amount of damage to this guy, and hopefully we're able to... Actually, does that work that way? Hold on, let me try and use the other weapon. Okay, that deals some bit of damage, and then at the same time I just somehow managed to able to almost sacrifice myself for this point right here, but that's okay. Because obviously I think I've actually got quite enough weapon energy in case if it's entirely empty, then I'll try to able to grind as many of those weapon refuel energy as much as I can, if possible. But either way though, sometimes though, it's just all about, like, you know, just being patient and also just trying to be extra careful, especially noticeable you don't want to get hit so many times. So he's almost down at this point, so forgot to say that this boss fight might be a bit tricky and difficult, especially noticeable if you accidentally run out of your weapon energy and stuff like that, then obviously you have to able to do the hardest method by keep on shooting at him, and there he goes. Oh wait, that was a little bit tough, I'm not gonna lie, but regardless of such though, we somehow managed able to pass this, so... And thankfully though, we got ourselves the flame mixer, so we can able to... Oh, is this like a shield? Okay, that's a little bit different, because unlike in Mega Man's weapon, that basically acts out as like a flamethrower, so in the base's counterparts, it actually acts out like a flame shield. You know, kind of like it did in the forms of in Leaf Shield, as well as, let's just say, Dual Satellite from Mega Man 9, as well as the forms of in, one of those, weapons from the likes of the forms of in, Mega Man 4, like Skull Barrier, and also say applies to, Starman's weapon, and, also, I think, if I recall correctly, like a Plant Barrier from the likes of in Mega Man 6. So as a result, though, I think that's the only thing about it. So, anyways, let's move on to the next Robot Master, which is Komuso Man, which it's hard to translate it because I know for the fact that, like I said before, everything else is in Japanese. Well, I wish if I was gonna able to download the patch or the English patch between the forms of, like I said before, this along with Klonoa Moonlight Museum, but it's a bit too late for now. So, oh well, no big deal, especially noticeable because, well, relatively speaking actually, is the fact that I'm pretty sure we're in the halfway point already, for the sake of the forms of basis playthrough, and also at the same time, we're almost getting close towards, did I somehow manage to screw this up? Yeah, I think I did. Especially noticeable, I was expecting I need to able to save some of the, weapon energy for certain obstacles with all that, you know, the energy might be still depleted and stuff like that, so, yeah, I didn't pay attention to that at all, so, whoops. So, anywho, so let's go ahead and just, deal with this frog, and then hopefully, well, despite the fact that I'm still basically a frog of any sort, but regardless of such though, I'm just a nice frog, as opposed to, a negative frog and stuff like that. Despite I stumbled across another death right there, probably due to the fact that I somehow touched the spikes. So that's actually almost kind of my fault right there. But oh well, not the end of the world personally, but at least that's something I guess. But anywho, so let's go ahead and continue things on here and just make sure that we don't screw this up again, because obviously if we dare screw this up again, then obviously that we will get a game over at some point. Well, I'm hoping not, just because for the most part, when it comes to the forms of this entire marathon so far, it's actually pretty swell. Like, I'm not gonna lie, it's actually pretty swell if I have to say so, especially noticeable about, well, despite we still come across into a couple of deaths here and there, but as a result of that kind of stuff though, it's actually overall pretty solid for the most part. So let's just go and dash for those spikes from the ceiling, and just in case we don't able to die instantly again, so... Because seriously, sometimes for base though, sometimes I felt incredibly unlucky for certain segments right there, but that's okay though, because either way though, we are, you know, getting there, although I was expecting if I was trying to get the weapon energy fill tank, but I'm probably not going to take a risk, because obviously if I die again, I have to go all the way back to the beginning of the level again, so that won't be that fun. But on the upside, we can able to just quickly switch the weapon ammo, and we can able to grab the weapon refuel energy for a tad bit. Well, not significantly though, but either way though, it does its job. Alright, so let's go and take care of this guy right here, and I think we should probably use... Oh, Jesus Louise! Anyways, let's go and, Oh, what? Okay, so it does not deal the damage on this thing, so... But maybe the flame mixer does, such as for instance right here. Although, most of the time he just teleports into, like, one side or the other, so... And there it goes. It's actually kind of quick in order able to actually just sort of, like, defeat this particular mini-boss. But hopefully we'll try to save some more ammo for the flame mixer. So hopefully we can able to expect that we will able to save it up for the next Robot Master we can deal with, so... yeah, for the most part, it all checks out there. So, oh jeez, we have to deal with not only those certain moths, but also trying to deal with the forms of those crumbling, like, platforms every time you stand on one of them. But, yeah, I just can't stand segments like this, so... But, thankfully, at the very least, we... Oh, you kidding me? You stupid ladybugs! Oh, jeez, this isn't good. We've only down to one, life left, so... But if I somehow die one last time, then it'll pretty much lead me to a game over, so... Oh boy, I can see how this is going, but, hopefully, I'll probably not get able to screw up so many times, I suppose. But yeah, it looks like this might actually be the difficult level yet, for base anyway, just because, well, not to mention with the forms of taking absolute forever to try to deal with certain enemies and stuff like that, but also you have no fast reaction timing when it comes to trying to avoid a lot of enemies as much as you could. So, either way though, let's just, oh jeez, more spiked ceilings from above? Oh jeez, want to get this done and over with. And, hopefully, we won't be having that much issue, I'm hoping for. Alright, so let's just, yeah, let's just ignore these enemies for now. And luckily for us, we got ourselves not only more health pickups, but also an extra life. So, at the very least, I've got an extra life back after the events of certain deaths so far, for the sake of the forms of this stage, so... But I will say that the music sounds nice, but aside from all that stuff though, yeah, I don't think Base's gameplay style in this level doesn't really work out for me, so I must be brutally honest here, so anyways, let's go and climb back down these several of ladders, and try to deal with even more ladybug-like robots, and then just, hopefully, God forbid, try to avoid as many of those things as much as we could, so... Alright, feels like we're almost there at this point. It's just the fact that we have to avoid not only certain gooby stuff thanks to that particular frog-like enemy, but also that stupid little moths. But I will have to admit it though, these moths can be kind of annoying to deal with, especially in Base's playthrough. But luckily, I didn't fall into the pit below because I somehow managed to able to land on a platform for almost instant, so cheers for that. So anyways, let's go ahead and climb up the ladder again, and I don't think I can probably get that particular tank energy container, although, I think there's actually technically a way you can able to make up there a bit easier, although first off, I need to shoot these ladybug-like robots in order able to, like, get rid of them. Oh sweet, another extra life, okay. Pretty generous of you, game. Very generous of you. Especially notable after dealing with so much deaths in this level so far. So, at least I'm... not gonna lie, I'm actually kind of backed up a little bit. So, at the very least, that's something, so... Anyways, let's go and grab the actual bolts. So, in this case, we're now up to 188 so far. But then again though, that's several of items you can probably buy in the actual item shop, even for Dr. Light's lab. It's disgustingly expensive though, which as a result of that kind of stuff though, that's I don't suppose I can probably able to show you guys every single items in the game, not just because of the forms of how expensive they are, but also it's kind of hard to explain, because every single text in the game is actually completely in Japanese, so... which is understandable, because the Bandai WonderSwan only came out in Japan, so... Anyways, trying to take care of... let's go and deal with this particular Robot Master right here. So, of course, the best method for this is just wait until when he finishes this particular attack pattern, when he decides to able to pull up a double team on you. And then, after when he does that, for about... I would say 3 times, then hopefully we can able to try to deal the amount of damage to this guy with, of course, the Flame Mixer. So hopefully we can able to deal with a massive amount of damage to this particular Robot Master, so we can pretty much expect we'll do it right now. While at the same time, getting hit by the flames isn't exactly the most reliable thing, but regardless of such though, we beat him as fast as we can. So, 4 Robot Masters down, and only, well, let's just say, technically 2 left, thus the actual main threat, which is of course Rockman Shadow. Ooh, Duplo attack. Okay, that's actually pretty cool, I'm not gonna lie. But I'm afraid that we're gonna have to wait to able to discuss on that. Although, I'll explain more about it briefly. What that does is that if you try to use that particular Duplo attack, Basically though, you can able to duplicate yourself for about 4 of yourself, and then basically you can able to hover around for a bit, and then that way you can able to actually deal the amount of damage to not only enemies, but also boss fights here and there as well, which I will say, from the look of it though, it's pretty cool, I'm not gonna lie, because it kind of reminds me of one of those weapons from the likes of the original Mega Man and base, except rather than 2 of yourselves, but also just, well, it's now been 4 of you, so it's hard to explain, because either way, yeah. So, we'll go ahead and say this right now, we'll end things off here. So join me next time for more of Let's Play of Mega Man and Base, Challenger from the future. It's the fact that we're about to take on the final 3 stages as Base. So, hopefully we should finish the game for real. So, I'll see you guys until tomorrow. Later, fellas.